article entitled Ministry of Health fully supports return to classes, right? This is from the Trinidad Guardian. Physical classes will resume for Standard 5 to Form 3 students come February 7th. But while some parents aren't comfortable with the move, the Ministry of Health is in full support. Speaking during Wednesday's virtual media conference, Minister of Health Terence Singh said the risks associated with the return are outweighed by the benefits to students. We at the Ministry of Health fully support and fully endorse the position that children who are gradually being reintroduced to physical classrooms is a very wise move. Children who are... all right, that doesn't make no sense. But anyway, whatever risks there are far outweighed by the benefits to children, the benefits to their parents, the benefits to their socialization, their access to nutrition, their access to meeting friends. You have some children for 2 years now who don't know who their peers are in school. And in school, that is not a good thing. Everything the minister there said there just now is 100% correct, in my opinion. I co-sign everything he just said. But you know what? It was true and correct last year. And it was true and correct the year before that. The risks, the benefits always far outweighed the risks of sending the children to school. Always. Why wasn't it done then before?
It is my opinion on what they're thinking. I think one, they would say, they would argue that they have a better understanding of the virus. Two, I think they would say they have
okay, right, cool.
Right?
I know you're saying what they would say.
Right?
Yeah.
I think they would say that we have some degree of vaccination amongst the children. But I also think the reason they're not letting all the children go back out in February is because they're planning to start vaccinating.
Try to joke 5 to 11.
The 5 to 11 and see if they can get the 5 to 11.
Yeah. I know that's going to be the rationale they'll provide. But what I'm saying is, I know that's what they will say. But that still doesn't mean that the risks weren't outweighed by the benefits all the time.
Well, yeah, let me tell you, is my issue there, right? The information they had, the information they have now, and the information they had when they were acting like if the children go to school, they'll die. It haven't changed much.
In fact, it's gotten worse. We have more we have more transmissible strains. The Delta was a more transmissible strain than the Alpha and than the original, right? And now the Omicron is even more transmissible than all of them, right? So we are now dealing with more easily transmissible versions of the virus.
And to be fair, also the Omicron apparently attaches itself easier with children.
Right. So one could argue that it is actually a more dangerous situation. In, let's say, September of 2020, we had we had an election period where they didn't think it was wise to curtail the behavior of the campaigners. They didn't think it was they didn't even want to contemplate not having the election at that time, putting the election off, right? They didn't even want to contemplate because the election was essential, essentially. You know, it's a constitutional, it's constitutionally required and they're not doing that, right? And they didn't have a lot of interest in making sure that the people behind the trucks were socially distanced, right? They didn't have any problem with that. When there were celebrations taking place after, they didn't seem concerned with that. But then they became concerned once that time had passed and they instituted whatever. But had they put off the election and instead opened the schools in September, we don't even know if we would have had a spike we might have had a spike that would have, just like we had a spike because of the election period, right? But was it on anybody's mind to open schools back then when we were not dealing with 1,000 cases a day and 20 something deaths a day? We weren't considering it then. But now we're dealing with that. We're dealing with record numbers of cases. We had a record number of cases the other day. 2 days in a row. We just beat the record. We set the record and beat it again. But now the benefits outweigh the risks. But the risks to me have increased.
Well, I think they would argue, because Dr. Rowley said that in the last major press conference thing he had, where he said, you know, the professionals are telling him that the negative effect it's having on, or it will have on the children. But I guess they would say it took them 2 years to assess that.
The reality is that that is garbage, right? And that's what they will say in their defense, because they're going to have to put up a defense. But the reality is that it is these are not, people think these are scientific decisions. These are political decisions. These decisions are being made because with a lot of different things in mind, not just the science at play, how we go look, what people want to hear now. People open to this, or they want to, so they've delayed the children going back to school until it's almost reached the point where it's untenable, right? But at any point in time, they could have made the decision to make school important and say, hey, this thing has to happen. I don't know what's the situation in other CARICOM countries, but I don't even think in CARICOM countries schools have remained closed this long. There are very few places in the world where school has remained closed this entire period.
Right, yeah.
You understand?
They open and some cases they close it back down. Yeah.
Exactly. No, and the thing is, even if, let's say, we've lost 12 months or 15 months of education, well, maybe we only needed to lose 9 or 7. That would have been better than 15. But we didn't, because at the point in time, that takes a back burner, because the optics of governing is more important than...
I understand what you're saying with the optics of governing, but I also think they were... I think they wanted to kind of stress on the vaccine campaign too.
But even before vaccines arrived, Naldo, children could have gone to school.
I know this.
Children were going to school around the world, even when vaccines weren't even a concept.
Right.
And at the point in time, we had not apprehended the amount of fear that we have now. So what I'm saying is, even if you want to say, well, you were trying to prevent what is happening now from happening, and now it happens, so there's no point in bothering. But the thing is, before we had vaccines and before any of that, we didn't have the scare that we have right now. We didn't really see COVID ravage the place. So you could have said at that point in time, listen, there are risks, but they're outweighed by the benefits, keeping the children out of school for so long. That's craziness. How long have people been complaining about the number of students who have not been participating in online schooling?
Right, yeah.
That's new information. So what they taught, like the 40-something thousand students who've just gone off the map. They thought, oh, well, if it's just a year, that'll be fine. But 2 years, that's breaking the straw, breaking the camel back.
2 years could be 3, but...
Well, I mean, 2 calendar years we're talking about, right? That will be breaking the straw, breaking the camel's back. What shipping is you telling, man? It was bad for them in 2020. It was bad for them during 2021, just as it's bad for them now.
The thing is, I don't know what to say about them on that way, because to be honest with you, I think there are a lot of games. I think and this is the hard thing I had to deal with thinking about them, right? Is it that they really don't know, or is it that they know the facts and they choose to just do what suits them? You understand? That is why I try.
I don't. The thing is, they would say that they don't know what will happen before it happens, right? And they would say that they will govern with an abundance of caution because it's people's lives they're dealing with, right? So that will be their excuse for the way they've managed the pandemic from the beginning. Even if you might say, well, okay, the fact is the disease has never ever been extremely dangerous to children. It's the risk stratification is clearly leans towards the elderly and the older folks with comorbidities more than anything else, right? Of course, it's not to say that you can't die if you're outside of those groups, but it's always leaned heavily in that direction. They've always known that, right? But they would say that, yeah, but sending the children to school, that could be a super spreader, and they will now spread the disease outside into members of the household and so on and so forth, right? So they would say that the risk that poses.
But to be fair, I mean, I've never studied these statistics in it, but it's just talking to people and I have idea about, what's going on in other countries. Do you think that we have more extended homes here in Trinidad than in plenty of other countries? where that risk could end up being higher.
Well, not many of the other countries that have had schools open. African countries, many African countries have not. I remember last year when I was watching.
But to be fair, let's not leave out African countries because we don't follow nothing them doing. If you understand what I'm saying.
No. If what you're saying is if if you're trying to explain the reason why they were more anxious or they had more reason to be fearful, well, they could have looked at places where I'm sure there are just as many extended families living in a household that didn't close schools and it didn't cause, death and damnation and devastation. So, or at least to a large degree. Now, they could probably fall back and say, well, those countries don't have as many people with NCDs. I guess, but did you know that from beforehand? Because I didn't hear that in the messaging before. I didn't hear, well, listen, people, don't watch Kenya and South Africa. Well, not South Africa, but don't watch Nigeria and Ghana and ask why we can't be like them. Because, hey, them people healthy, Them people just be outside in the sun. They just get a vitamin E. They don't sit down in AC whole day and eat nonsense and have diabetes. All they so all they do, no, I didn't hear that in the messaging. So now I'm hearing that when they have to explain why the death numbers are so high, now they're saying that NCDs are to blame. Because if you were aware that our situation was so dire from the beginning, then where was the messaging to get that in a gear?
And to get people healthy.
People healthy. You know what I mean? Where was that all the time? So you can't really duck from the idea that, hey, we just doing whatever convenient for us now, boy. No, nobody making a whole set of noise for trying to go to school. So let's leave them trying home, man. We could say we're doing something. We put some online education thing in place.
Because you remember the thing I was making the point earlier on with people fighting for children to go to school. As much as it had people fighting for children to go to school, you had tutors fighting to keep the children out of school to save the lives of the teachers.
True. That is true. But I mean, the state is the employer largely of most of those teachers. So the state could have wrangled with them as they're wrangling with the public service right now and all the other unions. And they want them to get a job and they put it on the foot that they'll get a job. Well, they could have put down the collective foot on and when I say, I'm not saying to force anybody to do anything, but what I'm saying is a greater effort could have been put forward, to, hey, let's get this thing going. This is an essential function of government. And therefore we need it to take place. We need to make every effort for it to take place. I understand it couldn't take place in a way that children might have always been going to school or whatever, might have been inconvenient to some extent. And I'm not saying it would have been the regular quality of education. Right, yeah. Probably poor in the first place. But something, but no effort was made until last year, October. And now, and if you're a primary school student, like yours and mine, it was 2 calendar years.
Yeah, there's going to be 2 calendar years.
2 calendar years have passed since they set foot inside of a school.
Yeah.
That's crazy, bro.
I was thinking about it the other day. Just imagine a child that was supposed to go into primary school 2 years ago. They'll probably now be going into, well, when they start back, they'll probably be finishing second year and then going into, well, it's open in April, so they would be finishing.
As if it opened in April. We don't know, but yeah.
I mean, I think it would. I think right now they trying to get back things on course. I think they're trying to get back to normal.
Yeah.
Right? So they'll be finishing up second year. So that means that real important part of their lives there.
They have they've begun school without being trained in the way that they would normally be to absorb information. So now they'll be older. They'll be closer to 7, 8,
which
as opposed to
coming out of that sponge phase.
Right.
Yeah.
And now you're going to sit them down in a classroom and they can't get up and walk around. Like my son does have real problems. Just today, he get put in detention because...
An online detention?
Yes, an online school. Because he kept moving from the screen. And she told him that he has to stay because they have they schedule the reading that the children do at different times a day. So everything ends at 3. But normally he would have been able to do his reading and finish by 12. But she told him, no, you have to stay here until everybody is finished reading. So he had detention on online school. But the main reason is because he has a problem he has a lot of problems paying attention to things he doesn't want to pay attention to in general. But it's easier because the teacher isn't there and he's not being taught.
And you're at home at the end of the day. Yeah. Well, get up and go in the kitchen now. Get up and go in the kitchen.
Exactly.
Even in school, you can't just get up and go in the yard.
You will feel weird getting up and walking out of a classroom. You understand what I'm saying? So and they were in school before that. They actually had school. It's not like they started primary school in that way. So imagine for those who haven't been in any kind of formal schooling or formal setting like that.
I even thinking about the 3-year-old. Who were 3 years old 2 years ago. Yeah. Who would have gone preschool to prepare them for
for school. And preschool was online or no preschool at all. And now they're going into probably to second year or something.
Yeah, for the second year there.
Craziness. And nobody's, Nobody shed spared a thought for those children at all. Everybody just, well, I frightened. So once I frightened, everything had to shut down. Everything I don't want to do should stay closed. So the bank did I open because I need money. The grocery need I open because I want to go and buy things to sit at home and watch Netflix. But everything else, close it.
Well, boy, it will really and truly get very interesting in the near future.